First, breaking news, a boating accident throws 3 fishermen into the water when their boat capsizes. One of them has died. Brett Buffington live with the very latest now. Brett.
And Ron, this afternoon, the Texas Game Warden is investigating what exactly happened here. We've learned from them and from the constable's office that patrols Lake Conroe that this happened around lunchtime today. 2 boats were in the water here not far from where we are right now in a part of the lake known as Lewis Creek. Those 3 fishermen, they were on their way to fish here. And take a look at some of this video. What you're looking at here is rescue workers working to recover that capsized boat. These 3 fishermen, they were on their way here to the mouth of Lewis Creek, according to the game warden, when another boat that was much bigger came by. The wake from that boat caused the boat with the 3 fishermen in it to capsize. Those 3 men, they were wearing life jackets, and they started making their way towards shore. In fact, people who live at a house nearby where this happened saw it happen and went in to try and help these 3 fishermen. 2 of the men made it to shore, and for some reason, one of the men became in distress, is what the constable's office described it as. Became in distress and couldn't make it to shore. He was unconscious in the water. They started CPR there on the shoreline shortly after. The game warden took over that, and then EMS took over the CPR. It's unclear exactly why that man died this afternoon. Certainly an autopsy will likely explain that. We're also waiting to learn who this man was. We're waiting on the game warden and the constable's office to notify his next of kin before releasing the identity. Of course, it's a story we'll stay on top of throughout the evening. For now, though, we're live at Lake Conroe. Brett Buffington, KHOU 11 News.
All right, thank you so much, Brett.